What happened to James Corden? Once a late-night juggernaut who ruled the TV world, he's now practically disappeared from the spotlight. And the reasons are messy. Behind that smiling, approachable TV persona, scandal after scandal has peeled back the curtain, exposing arrogance, deception, and behavior that made both fans and colleagues turn their backs. Whispers of unprofessional antics on stage, shady behind-the-scenes drama, and fake-feeling TV segments all clashed with the friendly everyman image he sold to the public. Audiences felt duped, insiders sounded the alarm, and one big question started echoing everywhere. Was James Corden always this cocky, and we just didn't see it until the mask slipped? The fall was swift. America closed the chapter on him, pulling him from primetime TV, while the UK, the place that made him, refused to give him a second chance. His rise and crash didn't just happen by accident, and in his own memoir, Corden even admitted when fame grabbed hold of him, his ego ballooned. He wrote, "You can start thinking you're cooler than you actually are." And that happened to me. I walked around with a bit of swagger. That swagger would soon define him in all the wrong ways. But before the scandals, James Corden's story looked like pure determination turned into destiny. No family connections, no easy handouts, just a kid from England hustling through small gigs, scraping by with minor roles in the musical Martin Guerre and teen soap Hollyoaks. Nothing about those early parts screamed global star, but each step was a brick in the foundation of what looked like an unstoppable career. Then came the game changer. 2007's Gavin and Stacey. Not only was he starring, but he co-created the series, packing it with quick wit and lovable characters. The sitcom exploded into a cultural phenomenon across the UK, and suddenly Corden wasn't just some actor, he was the breakout name everyone wanted. Back then, he played the role of the humble star perfectly, giving credit to luck and hard work, and audiences ate it up. He was the relatable, down-to-earth guy who could host your award shows, headline movies, and still feel like your buddy with the big grin. But fame has a way of twisting people, and soon Corden's demeanor began to change. Behind the shine of Hollywood, complaints started bubbling up from staffers and crew members, leaking into online chatter. Suddenly, the internet was buzzing with threads calling him arrogant, dismissive, and flat-out fake. The tipping point? The Glamour Women of the Year Awards in 2010. It was supposed to be Corden's big hosting moment, but it turned into an ugly PR nightmare. While presenting, legendary actor Sir Patrick Stewart called him out in front of everyone. Stewart, clearly unimpressed, blasted Corden with, "When the host or an award recipient is up here, don't stand in the back with your hands in your pockets looking around like you'd rather be anywhere else." Imagine that. A Hollywood icon humiliating the host of the night right on stage. Instead of handling it with charm or brushing it off, Corden doubled down, firing back instead of diffusing the moment. What should have been a classy gig turned into a circus, marking the first major crack in his shiny public image. Instead of brushing it off like a pro, James Corden locked eyes with Sir Patrick Stewart and squared up like he wanted to battle it out on stage. The air turned ice cold when Stewart doubled down and jabbed at him with, "From where I'm sitting, I can see your belly sticking out." The crowd gasped, and Corden, instead of laughing it off, snapped right back, "Well, we can all see you fumbling up there on stage." What was supposed to be a glamorous, feel-good night spiraled into chaos. The headlines the next morning weren't about the awards. They were about Corden's meltdown with Stewart. Social media lit up with posts blasting him. Organizers were furious, and audiences accused him of embarrassing the event. To many, it looked like pure arrogance, disrespecting a Hollywood legend in front of the world. That night became a permanent stain on his reputation, the first public sign that Corden's ego was starting to eclipse his charm. But instead of derailing him, the controversy was just a speed bump. Within 3 years, Corden had crossed the Atlantic, taken over the Late Late Show, and turned Carpool Karaoke into a global sensation. To viewers, he was once again the smiling, lovable Brit who could make any celebrity feel comfortable. But behind the curtain, the cracks started to show again. One of the first glaring moments came during Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. Sitting across from Jimmy Kimmel, Corden was challenged to name two of his cameramen. It should have been the easiest chance to show he cared about the people making his show possible. Instead, he froze, unable to name a single one. The audience laughed, but the moment hit hard. It exposed what insiders had been whispering for years. Corden was disconnected, dismissive, and maybe even out of touch with the very people who kept his empire running. Fans didn't forget. Soon they were dissecting his behavior, pointing out moments where he seemed smug, rude, or careless. And Carpool Karaoke, the very show that made him a worldwide name, became ground zero for the biggest accusations. At first, it was pure magic. Adele belting out her classics, Justin Bieber cracking jokes, even BTS lighting up the car with their energy. Viewers loved how natural it all looked, but the shine faded when people started asking, how much of this is real? The answer came in 2020 when a behind-the-scenes clip went viral showing Corden and Justin Bieber sitting in the car while it was actually being towed by a truck. Fans felt duped. The internet exploded with posts calling the show fake and scripted. Corden tried to calm the storm, admitting that about 5% of the segments used a tow rig for safety reasons. But the damage was done. The illusion was shattered, and audiences felt tricked. And just when the scandal couldn't get any worse, he stepped on a global landmine, BTS and their fanbase, ARMY. In an episode, Corden mocked their historic 2018 appearance at the United Nations, calling it unusual and labeling ARMY as 15-year-old girls. The comments hit like a slap, minimizing not only BTS's powerful Love Yourself campaign, but also their mental health advocacy on a world stage. Fans across the globe erupted in anger, accusing Corden of cultural ignorance and using cheap insults to grab attention. The backlash was brutal. ARMY flooded social media with criticism, demanding an apology and vowing to boycott his show. For many, it confirmed what they already suspected, that Corden wasn't really celebrating the stars in his car, he was exploiting their fame to keep his own spotlight shining. Even in his most famous Carpool Karaoke episodes with stars like Adele or Paul McCartney, viewers couldn't help but notice something off. James Corden just couldn't stay in his lane. Instead of letting the spotlight shine on his guests, he'd belt louder than them, crack awkward jokes, or hijack the moment to show himself off. Fans began complaining that Corden seemed less interested in celebrating his guests and more obsessed with polishing his own image. And that selfish streak only added fuel to the growing fire. Behind the cameras, things sounded even uglier. Former staffers from The Late Late Show stepped forward with claims that Corden was a micromanager who snapped when things didn't go his way. According to them, the charming, goofy TV host was just an act. The real Corden was demanding, irritable, and exhausting to work with. To audiences, this confirmed what they'd suspected. The nice guy persona was just a mask, and behind it was a diva who couldn't handle not being in control. And the scandals kept piling up. In 2022, comedian Ricky Gervais called Corden out for allegedly lifting one of his jokes word for word from Afterlife. Gervais blasted him on Twitter, posting the exact joke with a reminder that it was his creation. Fans immediately pounced, accusing Corden of plagiarism and asking if his comedy was ever truly original. Corden tried to brush it off, claiming it was an unintentional coincidence, but by then, the damage was done. Audiences were left doubting his creativity, and critics started pointing out how his other segments, like Crosswalk the Musical, felt eerily similar to older established skits from other shows. Whether intentional or not, the accusations made him look like a copycat chasing borrowed success. But if all that wasn't enough, his career took its most humiliating hit with The Disaster of Cats in 2019. Hyped as a major Hollywood musical adaptation with a star-studded cast, the movie tanked so badly it became one of the biggest cinematic punchlines of the decade. The film barely scraped a 19% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and bled nearly $100 million at the box office. Critics called it a nightmare, and audiences left theaters cringing, not clapping. And Corden's role? He played Bustopher Jones, a posh, oversized cat dressed in tuxedo-style fur, but instead of enchanting audiences, his character horrified them. The bizarre CGI design gave him a disturbingly human-like face on a furry body, and his performance leaned heavily into clownish gags that clashed with the otherwise mystical, surreal tone of the musical. Reviewers slammed him, saying he turned the character into a parody of himself, making the film's already chaotic mess even harder to watch. You'd think he would at least show humility after being part of such a legendary flop. But nope. When asked about the movie during a talk show appearance, Corden smirked and quipped, "I haven't seen it, but I hear it's awful." The remark landed like a slap in the face, not only to fans who wasted money watching it, but also to the hundreds of cast and crew who worked on the project. Reddit threads and Twitter posts exploded, tearing him apart for mocking a film he was paid handsomely to star in. To many, it wasn't just tone deaf, it was proof that Corden didn't care about anyone but himself. Cats was supposed to be James Corden's golden ticket, the role that would finally cement him as a Hollywood heavyweight. Instead, it became a flaming disaster, staining his career and fueling endless memes at his expense. Critics accused him of disrespecting his colleagues and the hundreds of people who poured years into the production. To many, his flippant dismissal of the film wasn't just bad taste, it was a sign of his arrogance. But believe it or not, that wasn't even the scandal that defined him. The biggest bombshell in James Corden's career didn't come from a stage or a film set. It came from a New York restaurant. Enter Balthazar, the celebrity hotspot run by outspoken owner Keith McNally. Out of nowhere, McNally lit up social media with a brutal post branding Corden, a gifted comedian, but a petty human being. Fans couldn't believe it until the details dropped. According to McNally, the drama started when Corden found a single hair in his dish. Instead of handling it quietly, he allegedly demanded free drinks and threatened to torch the restaurant with a scathing review. Things escalated when his wife's omelet order came out wrong. Witnesses say Corden lashed out at the staff, snapping and yelling despite the kitchen apologizing immediately. McNally, fuming, didn't just ban him, he dragged him publicly, putting the whole messy episode on blast. Corden's attempt at damage control only made it worse. On an October 24th episode of The Late Late Show, he offered what many saw as a half-hearted apology. "I didn't yell or throw insults at anyone. I don't think I did anything wrong." The audience wasn't buying it. Social media was flooded with comments from fans saying this wasn't shocking at all. "Stories about this guy have been around forever. No shock here," one viewer wrote. The scandal didn't just look like an isolated outburst. It looked like confirmation of years of whispered stories. The comparisons to Ellen DeGeneres came fast. Just like Ellen, Corden had built his career on a kind and funny persona. But now fans were convinced the real man behind the curtain was controlling, rude, and dismissive. And the worst part? Nobody seemed surprised. By April 2023, the hammer dropped. After 8 years at the helm, Corden officially walked away from The Late Late Show. Publicly, he framed it as wanting to spend more time with his family, but insiders and fans pointed to the mountain of controversies as the real reason. What should have been a graceful farewell tour ended up feeling more like a quiet retreat from a career collapsing under its own scandals. Now back in England, Corden is no longer the king of late-night TV, nor the viral star racking up millions of views. Instead, he's carrying the baggage of his scandals everywhere he goes. For years, he convinced audiences with his big smile, musical numbers, and polished charm. But behind the laughter, the cracks grew deeper and deeper, from stolen jokes and fake segments to explosive rants and cultural insensitivity. Each misstep chipped away at his credibility until his image finally shattered. Today, the gap between the affable James Corden we saw on screen and the man whispered about behind the scenes feels too wide to ever close. And that leaves us with one burning question. Can James Corden ever stage a comeback, or has his friendly everyman persona been buried for good? Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more.